All right, SML, welcome back to Battle at the Border. It's been a while, but we're back at it. Finz is back from his extended vacation of overworking,
Oh God. Yes.
at least for today. So it's good to have you back, Finz.
Thanks, man. It's good to be back.
All right, so let's jump right into this, um, and we'll start with topic one. So topic one, big trade went on this season. Clink sent what he sent Cam Jordan to Prime for Mecole Hardman and a second round pick. Do you think Clink is helped more or is Prime hurt more by this trade? Because I think everyone pretty much agrees that Prime lost this one. So we'll start
Yeah,
with you.
yeah. I mean, it definitely helped Klink, right? But I think it's going to hurt Prime more. Um, you when you start off with Hill and Hardman, and you add in Travis Kelsey, and then he had Mostert, but like he added a running back this year that's been fantastic for him. You add all those pieces, that offense is unstoppable. It was borderline unstoppable without Hardman, but Prime's record would kind of say otherwise. Um, like with if all those guys are in place, you really have to pick your poison and kind of figure out who's going to die. You're going to try to stop Hill, then Hardman or Kelsey's going to beat you. You try to load up on the pass, the running back's going to beat you. And then I totally understand why he needed defensive help. Like he was unhappy. He went out and got an X Factor guy, but he got the second oldest rostered left end in the league, and he also sent a second round pick. And in the draft last year, you see how deep the draft was. So it hurts him in the interim, and it's going to hurt him long term, I think, more than it's going to help Clink.
See, that's kind of where I disagree. I think it definitely hurts Prime, but I think Clink immediately gets one of the best weapons in the game. And you just have to look no further than the games he's played with him so far. He's got 10 touchdowns on 18 catches since coming to the Saints. So instantly he gave him a shot in the arm on offense, which is a huge help for Clink. He's beaten Paulie twice now. Maybe more importantly, he broke up the Paulie Prime bromance. Um, and I mean, Prime lost the trade, but I don't think it really hurts him as much. He wasn't using Hardman all that much anyway. Just this season, he had 5 catches, 89 yards, no touchdowns. Last season, 33 catches, 6 touchdowns, only 549 yards. Maybe he was used as more of a decoy, but you can get pretty much any speed guy to run down the field and use that as a decoy. I think the only thing Prime really loses out on, because he is going to get that pass rusher, which hopefully for him lasts more than one season. I think the biggest part he lost was just losing Hardman's value as a trade piece, because I don't think he got a good deal for him. But as far as who benefits more, I think it's Clink easily. He's going to win that NFC South.
Yeah, that defensive help he got so far. I don't know if he's hurt or not. I think he might have been hurt, but
He was.
you can't really factor that in. But he's got 3 total tackles and 1 sack so far.
Yeah.
So not a lot of defensive help coming back for Prime, right?
No, and of those, only 1 tackle and 1 sack were recorded in his time with the Chiefs.
Right, against Mike.
Yeah. So all right, so that's topic one. Topic two, and this is another one that's kind of been brought up a lot, pretty much since the team draft. It's been AFC stacked, NFC garbage. First Super Bowl, it was a fairly close game points wise, but I don't think I ever trailed Dump. He would get close, get it within 1 score, and I'd go back up within 2 scores. So season one, it kind of played out the way the storyline's gone, but for the remainder of the seasons of the cycle, who do you think has more pressure on them? The AFC, who's expected to win all the Super Bowls, or the NFC, who's pretty much trying to win one?
Well, first of all, I'm going to preface my answer with I understand that, as a one-win team, this comes with a lot of irony. But I'm going to say the NFC is the one that has more pressure because of all of the NFC contenders that are there, all of those guys come with that mantle that they can't win the big game, right? Like you got
That's fair.
Dump, you got Paulie, you got D-Muse, you got I'm not going to kind of put QP in there, not for the fact that he isn't a contender, but I don't think he has that mantle of not being able to win the big game. I don't know if he's reached a conference championship yet, but until he gets that far, we don't know, right?
Okay.
So you couple that with the fact that there's a chance in the overwhelming perception that the AFC is going to sweep, then that just, to me, that doubles the pressure on them. And I think that it just makes it all more important that, I mean, they just have to win one. And I don't really think they are going to win one. So all these guys kind of have that, they seem to can't get over top of each other, right? Like you had that mantra last year, but now that's gone. And now you're, legit. I mean, everyone knew you were a contender, but you just couldn't get over the hump. Now you did it, and you beat a guy who can't get over the hump, right? So, I think you line up the big four plus. I think I'm going to even increase it to a big five, because Spades looks like, if he's going to stick around for another full season, he looks like he's going to be in there too. I think I line up Spades, you, Bomber, Dan, Faz. I take them. I favor you guys every time over QP, Pauly, D-Muse, Dump, and whoever else they throw in there.
Okay, that's kind of why I'm on the other side of this. I think the AFC has more pressure for almost the exact same reason. Like I said, the NFC, they're just no big deal. They're playing with house money. But the AFC, it's expected to win. So to me, that's more pressure than somebody that, just needs to get one and get over the hump. I think the AFC is the ones playing with more pressure. NFC basically playing with house money every time they get to the Super Bowl. They're not expected to win. No big deal. Play loose. AFC, you don't want to be that first guy to lose to the NFC. To me, that's a ton of pressure. I mean, just from my DMs, knowing I was going up against Dump, there was a lot of pressure to not lose. Nobody wanted to hear Dump in the chat afterwards. Forget being NFC, AFC. Just the fact that Dump's over there. If it's him more often than not in the Super Bowl, that's going to be added pressure, regardless of conference.
Right. I mean, they have some fan favorites. Like everyone loves QP. Everybody loves D-Muse. I mean, everyone loves Dump, right? Just we don't like Chatty Dump, who, is his own worst enemy, right?
Yeah.
Everyone loves Pauly, right? So, we want to see these guys win, but I think, once you get there and the pressure's like, okay, this is my chance, and then, you go down 14-0, it's hard to kind of climb out of that hole when you're already facing pressure to kind of get rid of that mantra. Prime loves his narratives.
Yes, he does.
And Prime will just be hammering those guys. Oh, it looks like their NFC's trash, and he'll just push that and push that and push that, and it's NFC in my opinion.
See, but by the same token, Prime loves those narratives, and if you're the first AFC guy to lose to an NFC guy, there's going to be something said, and
unless it's Prime.
Well, that's true. Unless it's Prime. All right, so topic three, and this actually leads right into Prime. We've seen Prime and Dan. They've kind of obviously went to the same division this year, so they're going to have a little bit more of a rivalry than they did last cycle, because they're going to play quite a few times. And so far, at least with recent matchups, Dan's had the advantage. He's got 3 straight. One of them was a playoff game. Do you think that Dan has supplanted Prime in the rivalry?
Yeah, I do. I think it's 4 straight, because Dan lost his first game when he was 0-5, and then I think he won the next one in the playoff game, and then he swept him.
Yeah, you're right.
This season
it should be 4.
So he's got 4. He's got 4 out of the 5. And the key one to me is that playoff victory, because as we just talked about, Prime loves those narratives, and the narrative always was, okay, sure, you can beat me. Maybe you can beat me in the regular season, but when it comes to playoffs, you can't beat me, right? And that was what Prime was hammering, and well, Dan did it, and then he went on to sweep him this season. Also, you look at Prime is 4-3, and kind of he's obviously better than me, but he's struggling a little bit, and he's got a tough schedule. Dan's 8-0, right? So right now, I think you, in my opinion, you can't look at those two and not say that Dan is the better player right now. And it could change for sure, because Prime, as Prime gets that team to where he wants to be, we all know he's good, and especially towards the end of the cycle. But right now, Dan is the top dog in that rivalry.
Yeah, I'd agree that Dan is the better player overall right now. But as far as the rivalry, I don't think if we're just going off this cycle, sure, Dan's got it. But their rivalry overall in the SML. I think the fact that Prime still has more playoff wins, more regular season wins over him, he may be trending in the wrong direction, in his opinion, but I don't think he's lost the upper hand on Dan. And I'm sure the next time they meet up, he's going to remind him that he's still got the better record. He's still got more playoff wins. Um, I think Dan's overall success in the cycle so far is obviously quite a bit better than Prime's, but that's not what we're talking about here. I think when it comes down to just the two of them, I think Prime's still got a little bit of an advantage because of those playoff wins.
Yeah, but I think their successes as just overall is part of that rivalry, right? Like Dan, our Prime always talks about how Dan has a great regular season record but struggles in the playoffs, right? And I think you can't really talk about their legacy. I mean, maybe this is just because I have never sniffed the playoffs or will win a Sabardi, but to me that regular season dominance is part of that legacy and that rivalry, and to me that factors in.
I just think that both teams are playing for Simbardis. They're not playing for just to make the playoffs or regular season wins. So unless there's Simbardis involved, I don't even think the regular season matters too much to them. All
Fair
right,
enough.
so we'll move on to topic 4. We've talked about the top teams in the league. Let's talk about some of the bottom teams, or at least one of the bottom teams. Two teams made some questionable quarterback decisions. One by his actions, the other by his inactions. We had Colt lets Stafford walk away for nothing and ends up with Jacoby Brissett at quarterback. And then you have Matt, who is just dead set on Dwayne Haskins being his quarterback, despite everyone in the league telling him that that's a bad idea, except maybe the Browns. I don't mind him keeping Haskins there. But which do you think was a worse move?
I mean, they're both bad. Like let's just be clear,
Yeah.
they're both bad. But to me, it's Colt. Like I don't know how you let a 94 throw power, 80 accuracy, 80 or above accuracy in all three accuracies walk for nothing. Like I know for a fact that he had offers that he could have moved him for something. Like get a mid-round pick. Like get him something. Like the fact that you didn't get anything and then seem to like have no plan to replace him. Like I know he's playing well with Brissett, but there's no argument to be made that Stafford isn't a better option, right? And we talk about how the NFC is kind of wide open at this point with probably two teams that are locks for the playoffs in the Cards and the Lions. I mean, he's sitting at 3-5, so he's probably a game and a half back of the playoffs. Stafford there probably helps him get at least one or two more wins. And also keeps them competitive. Brissett's been playing okay, but Stafford's 1,000 times better. So I just don't know how you, A, let a guy like that walk for nothing, and B, have no plan to replace him. So to me, it's got to be Colt.
See, and this is where we kind of disagree. Colt right now has 3 wins. He finished all of last year with Stafford with 4 wins. So I think letting Stafford walk was bad. There's no argument there. Brissett's obviously not as good as Stafford. He could have done a lot better. Done a lot better at the quarterback position with Stafford. You can't argue that. Stafford's better than Brissett. However, what you also can't argue, Colts a bottom 5 team regardless of who plays quarterback. So I don't think it really matters if he had Patrick Mahomes on that team. He turns into a 6-win team. Doesn't matter. But Matt, on the other hand, he's 2 seasons removed from a Super Bowl appearance. He's got a solid defense to go with a good running back, which is the whole reason he took the team. And then all he's missing is a threat at quarterback. He doesn't even have to be a good passer. He says that Haskins hasn't lost him any games, but that's not true. Haskins maybe hasn't lost him games with his throws, but it's the lack of any type of threat from that quarterback position that just makes the rest of the offense stall. He's got a guy in Najee Harris, superstar running back. He's averaging 5.3 yards per carry. That's almost a full half yard worse than ZZ's getting out of Philip Lindsay. Philip Lindsay's not anywhere near the halfback that Najee Harris is. And Matt, self-proclaimed best runner in the SML, he's not getting more yards than Philip Lindsay. And then on top of that, it's the same yards per carry Fig had with Trey Sermon. So I don't want to hear about Najee Harris only having 88 speed and shit abilities. Fig did just as good with a slower, no ability guy that's not even close in ratings. So his only threat is Harris. He's already said himself he's a bad passer, but Haskins having a noodle arm and just not being a threat with the ball is holding him back far more than Colt having Brissett.
Yeah, I mean, I think where we differ on that, because like I said, like neither of them are great moves. I think the difference is at least Matt knows what he is. Matt, always just talks about how he prides himself on his defense, and he wants to fix his defense. Like there's a plan in place there. Whether I think Matt's playing the long game. I don't know what game Colt's playing. Pardon me. Colt's just kind of like throwing shit at the wall and see what sticks, I think. And to me, that's why it makes it a worse move, right? Matt's got a plan. Colt has Jacoby Brissett.
See, but I think Colt he's the same Colt regardless of who's the quarterback. He's a top 10.
But sorry, go ahead.
He's just going to say he's a top 10 pick regardless of who's a quarterback. So it's not hindering him. He may end up with more wins this season than last season. Going from Stafford to that. Matt, we can agree Matt's a playoff team or a playoff caliber player, right?
Yeah.
But he's not in the playoffs. And it's because Haskins is his quarterback. He's not a threat. Nobody's afraid of Haskins beating him. So you can load up to stop Najee Harris and then don't worry about Haskins. He's going to make a bad throw. Or there's just throws that he can't make that Matt will settle for. I played him and he had a chance to drive down the field to either tie or win the game, our first matchup. And because Haskins didn't have a good arm, he's taken underneath stuff and just the clock runs out. He doesn't even have time to make a drive at the end.
Well, I mean, I played with Matt for a long time, and I know when Matt feels like he's going to lose, even if it's a one-score game, he just runs the ball. Like Matt gives up. Like, I mean, we've seen it time and time again on the SML. People are commenting on his games, like you guys commentated one of his games, and we're like, why is he not calling timeouts? Well, and then you get in chat, and I said he's going to say he already lost the game, even though it was like a 3-point game or whatever it was. And he's like, yeah, I was done already. I had no business being in that game, whatever. That's Matt. Matt's always been that way. He's a different cat, man. I'll say that for him. But I think, like, getting back to Colt's point, like, Colt has more wins because, I mean, he won 4 games last year, so his schedule is easier, right? And I think with that easy schedule with Stafford, he actually contends for the playoffs in the NFC. So,
all right. Well, see, his schedule hasn't been that easy. Other than he did have you and Fig on there, but he's gonna have Fig every year. He almost beat the Raiders. He had Prime. He had Clink on his schedule. He had Dump obviously twice. So it hasn't been an easy schedule. And then Noel, who's playing a lot better. So it hasn't exactly been an easy schedule. And no, he did beat the Raiders 37-35. So he's beaten decent teams. I just don't think he's fallen as far based off the quarterback as Matt has. I think Matt could be a playoff team, should be a playoff team, and he's just not. All right. So our last topic, and this one's going to be a little different. Normally we're on the pick one side of the coin type show here, and this one's going to be a little more open-ended, so each pick different teams. The off-season, we're about halfway through season 2. People doing their re-signs, got free agency coming up. We just had a free agency for the first off-season, and maybe people are getting a little too relaxed with their cap. What team do you think is going to be in some trouble with their cap and their team building coming up maybe this season and then rolling into the next couple seasons?
Yeah, so in doing research for this, there are a lot of teams that are in real bad shape for cap. Like, I think there were 19 teams that have less than $5 million of cap space. So I thought I was a bad cap manager. I don't know. But, to me, it was their one clear one was the Falcons. The Falcons right now are minus $12.5 million over the cap. Or sorry, I guess they're $12.5 million over the cap. So I was like, okay, well, maybe Ryan's old. He's coming off the books. Maybe that'll help it out. Nope, he's got one more year, and in that year, he makes $44 million. And if you cut him, it's a $42 million penalty. Jake Matthews is like 30 years old, so he's getting up there, and he's making 22. And if you cut him, you get a little bit of relief, but you have a $16 million penalty. And then couple that with the fact that you have salary increases on like Olukan and other guys coming up. You have to re-sign Ridley, and you have to re-sign Grady Jarrett next year, or actually this year. So that's going to be real tough. And then after you get those guys signed, you got Deion Jones coming up next year, and Deion Jones is currently making 17 million, and you can't not sign Deion Jones. Like that man is incredible. So if he doesn't get that straightened out real soon, his cap is going to be screwed for the entire cycle.
Yeah, so this was a tough one. Those Falcons were definitely the low hanging fruit there. Already negative 12 million with two of their best players, really. Outside of Kyle Pitts, who's on a rookie deal, you've got 290 plus or close to it. I don't know if Grady Jarrett comes into this season. Yeah, he's 90 and Ridley's 93. Both of them going to command some pretty big dollars in the re-sign, and neither of them signed to this point. So negative 12 million because he can't re-sign them. So it'll be really interesting to see what he does. But I kind of looked at something else, and I went with the 49ers and Fig. Number one, terrible team builder. Don't care what he thinks about his own team. He's a terrible team builder, and he's going to put himself in trouble. And the problem's going to be he's got some decent contracts that are going to come off the books. But if he chooses not to re-sign him, he's just destroyed his already weak and aging defense. It's just going to get worse. And for a guy that traded away a pick to get who did he get? Isabella, a receiver. Doesn't need a receiver, but he traded away a second-round pick to get that. And it's Woods' pick, probably going to be a mid-second round, so he could get a starter on defense there. Already didn't have a first-round pick. So I think he's going to be hurting, and he's got to re-sign still Bryce Callahan. And maybe he lets these guys walk because they are a little older, but if he does, he's got nothing to back him up is the problem. Callahan, Melvin Ingram, Logan Ryan, D. Greenlaw, Sam Abukum, Jimmy Ward, D. Ford, all set to expire. That's what, 4, 5, 6, 7 starters you're about to lose on your defense. That's already bad. If you look at his defense, it's like 32nd in I'll pull it up just so I'm not even making up numbers because it's pretty bad. His offense.
And Warner's got to be coming up soon too, right? Like he's probably got 2 years left.
He's re-signed Warner. Warner and Bosa both have been locked up long-term deals, but he's 22nd in points allowed at 27. He's only scoring 28, so he's just 1 point difference on offense after spending all that capital on offense. 30th in yards, 30th in passing yards, and 25th in rushing yards, all against. And now he's going to lose 7 starters. So on top of that, he's also going to lose Mike McGlinchey on the offensive line. So there goes your running with Jacobs, who, by the way, is doing worse than he did with Trey Sermon, despite his touchdown numbers being higher. His yards per carry is 1/10 of a yard less. So there's going to be other teams that maybe have bigger cap issues in the short term. But I think with this team and then missing all those picks at the top end of the draft, there's little to rebuild with, and the cap's just going to be an issue. He's only got $800,000 right now, so pretty much none of those guys are going to be re-signed until the off season. He can maybe recoup some of that, but it's not like you're going to get starters, 7 starters on defense for what you're going to get back in cap space.
Right, and if he chooses to tag one of those guys, that's a huge cap hit right there too, yeah. Right?
And none of them are worth a tag, in my opinion. Callahan's like an 85, but he's 30 years old. He's not that great, and like you said, that's a huge cap hit when you do that. And now, what are you gonna do about those other 6 spots on defense? Plus, you've lost an offensive lineman.
What about Ward? He's a safety, right?
He's a safety. Yeah.
Yeah. He might be okay to tag, but I mean, that's probably what, 15 million?
Yep, for an 84 overall. So the problem is the guys they're starter calibers, but none of them are stars. None of them do I want to lock up that much cap space in. But it's almost like he's going to have to. He can't really re-sign them, at least not during the season. And that means everybody knows you get one shot. If you lowball them or even sometimes give them a fair offer, if you're a 4-win team, they may just tell you to get bent and they're going to walk. And now you're out that player and you've got to come up with something, and missing a first and second round pick. I think he does still have his second, but it would have been nice to have that Panthers second back for Isabella. And I could be talking to the wall though, because he'll tell you how great it is to have Isabella as he's sitting at two or three wins.
Well, I mean, like I will applaud the man for one thing. Like he did make a point, which I tend to agree with. That if the name of this, if we do this for fun, like
Oh, absolutely.
then he's having fun. But that doesn't sound like fun to me.
No,
Like if you're going to be starting seven, like four rookies and three free agent scrap heap guys on a defense in a tough division, that's no bueno.
no, and if you want to have fun, I'm all for that. That's fine. Say you're having fun. Don't say you're going to win 11 games because building that team the way you are, you're not winning 11 games. You may not win 11 this cycle, because
I know I won't.
that team's just going to get worse. So
Yeah, the overall sentiment of this question is y'all need to look at your teams and look at your cap space because it's ugly out there, people.
yeah, if you're re-signing guys that are 30 years old for 4-year deals for 10, 15 million a year, you're going to be really upset when you have those guys at 34 years old and they're vastly overpaid and you can't re-sign anybody.
Are we talking about the Devontae Adams contract?
That could be one that's going to hurt. But he'll be lucky when Aaron Rodgers retires after this season and he loses that second round pick for half a season. But yeah, I think there's some teams that probably need to look at their cap. Some of the other teams that I looked at since this one, we've just pretty much dogged on both teams. Might as well throw some of the other teams I looked at.
Let's do it.
The Cardinals. I don't know that Dump's going to have too much problem with his cap as much as he's got a lot of older guys. Watts up for a new contract. Chandler Jones, Byron Murphy. He's got like 30 million right now, but man, you don't want to tie that up in those old contracts. So kind of interested to see what he does with those guys. He's got a decent amount of guys still that need to be re-signed, and those could be some big names hitting free agency. The other team that I looked at is the Eagles, and they're in a similar position as the 49ers. They've got a lot of guys aging. They've got a lot of guys that are aging that are still starter quality that are going to be expiring contracts. And I mean, it's the same thing. If you didn't sign them early to have multiple shots at them, you don't want to give them sometimes that 4-year deal that they want at like 32 years old. But the Eagles have picks. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. No, sorry. And I was going to say that I was looking at the Eagles too. And the reason why I didn't pick them is, as ironically, he's been, raked over the coals for this. But those 4 rookie linebackers give him that cap space, right? And Hurts is still young enough and has a contract that is cheap enough to not, mess things up moving forward. So, and I think Foz is pretty low in cap space too, but I have no issue with his team building abilities. He's pretty savvy with that when it comes to that stuff, and probably is already out in front of it. So, yeah,
his looked pretty manageable because what he has coming off, he may not make any big splashes in free agency, but he's not hurting his team. Whereas the Eagles, I think it's Brandon Graham, Javon Hargrave. That's 2 80s on your defensive line that you didn't address in the draft last year. You got 5 linebackers, 4 of them in the first round. Unless maybe you can move one to defensive end. I don't know what those linebackers look like, but man, and now you got Miles Sanders. He's up for a contract. Now I thought I saw that he re-signed him, but it didn't look like it in game, so I'm not sure.
I know he was talking about it because he was saying he was asking for quite a bit of money.
Yeah.
So either he hasn't yet and he's going to, or because I know he was trying to move him, but he wants at least a first rounder, which is I'm not saying that that's bad value, but
it's bad value. Nobody's going to give that
up. Just especially with the drafts loaded, being loaded right now, right? Like you look at Kidd and the running back that Prime got; those guys are good running backs. So
Whitfield, and then even Graham's got a guy that's pretty good.
Yeah. So yeah, no one's given a first for. I mean, shoot your shot, like by all means, but yeah.
It'll be interesting to see what those teams do. But this has been our I don't know what you would call it, a renewed battle at the border. We're back after a short hiatus. So if you guys don't remember, leave the score in the comments, and we'll tally it up for next one. And then you never know, there could be a giveaway coming one of these shows. So make sure you comment so you get entered. But you got anything else, Vince?
No, man, it's just good to be back. Thanks for not giving up on me, and
Yeah.
thanks for bearing with me during my busy work time. But things are easing up for me, so I'm looking forward to the next one.
All right, yeah, I assumed in the Canadian winter you guys will be indoors more and you'll have more time. We'll see.
Oh yeah, we'll be hunkered down for
Yeah.
sure.
So, all right, guys, this has been Battle at the Border, and we'll see you again maybe next week. Thanks for being on, Vince.